Imagine you stumble upon an ancient, leather-bound book filled with strange-looking scripts and illustrations of plants that don't seem to exist on Earth. Every word, every symbol defies any known language. For over 600 years, cryptographers, historians, and even the world's best codebreakers have pored over its pages, trying to unlock its secrets. Yet none have succeeded. Known as the Voynich manuscript, this mysterious book raises endless questions. Who wrote it? Why can no one decipher it? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, could this book be a window into a knowledge that we're simply not meant to understand? In 1912, a rare book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich was digging through old chests of manuscripts at a Jesuit college near Rome called Villa Mondragone. The Jesuits were selling off parts of their collection, and Voynich was free to search for anything of interest. While sifting through, he came across a manuscript that stood out like nothing else, something he called an ugly duckling, a book unlike any he'd ever seen. The pages were filled with strange symbols, looping letters, and drawings of plants that looked like they'd come from another world. Voynich knew right away that this was something special. He bought it, and soon the manuscript began to capture his imagination, as well as others. Today, this strange artifact is known as the Voynich manuscript, and it's kept at Yale University's Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library. For over 100 years, experts have examined its pages, trying to figure out what it all means. They wonder if the symbols are part of a real language or just a made-up script. Are the drawings code, or is the whole thing an elaborate mystery? These unanswered questions have earned the Voynich manuscript the title of the world's most mysterious book. And while much about it remains unknown, modern science has started to reveal a few clues. Carbon dating shows that the manuscript's vellum, or parchment, dates back to between 1404 and 1438. The inks used, made from iron and minerals, also match materials used in the early 15th century, which suggests that the book is real and not some recent invention. Inside, the manuscript holds 234 pages, with illustrations of strange plants, zodiac signs, bathing women, and symbols like dragons and castles. Historians have grouped these images into 6 sections: botanical, astrological, cosmological, biological, pharmaceutical, and recipes. And surprisingly, statistical analysis of the writing shows that the text might not be random at all. Some researchers now think that it was written by 5 different people, and possibly in more than one dialect, suggesting it may be a real language hidden in plain sight. So what is this book about? To answer that, let's rewind to the year 1865. Born in Poland, Wilfrid Voynich had been involved in revolutionary movements, which eventually led to his imprisonment in Siberia. After escaping, he moved to London, where he started his rare book business before buying this manuscript. Voynich believed that this manuscript might have been created by Roger Bacon, a 13th century philosopher, and thought that decoding it would raise its value. But despite his best efforts, the mystery remained unsolved. Even till now, experts have tried to match its symbols to many languages, from Latin and Hebrew to Turkish, but none fit. Even artificial intelligence has come up short. The sections of the book are laid out with plants that look like a mix of real and imagined species, star charts with zodiac symbols, and what looks like recipes. Strangely, the manuscript is almost free of corrections, which is rare for handwritten work from that time. Some researchers say it's like the alien language from the movie Arrival, so unfamiliar we're not even sure it's a language. Each page flows with symbols that curl and loop in patterns, with some glyphs resembling hangman's scaffolds, often connecting with each other in decorated strokes. The meaning of these symbols is unknown. Perhaps they represent sounds, numbers, or something entirely different. The drawings seem to point to knowledge about the natural world, herbs, biology, star positions, and even the moon's phases. But let's paint the picture more clearly. Imagine a book so mysterious that even the greatest minds in history couldn't crack it. It's filled with strange symbols, bizarre plants that don't exist, and star charts that don't seem to make sense. A century-old book that has driven its readers mad with curiosity and confusion. But just how did this book come to be? Well, the story begins with Emperor Rudolph II, the Holy Roman Emperor in the late 1500s. He was deeply interested in alchemy, the occult, and anything that hinted at hidden power. When he saw this strange manuscript, he had to have it. He reportedly paid a small fortune to own it, almost $30,000 in today's currency, and he was convinced it held secrets beyond imagination. Rudolf gave it to his trusted pharmacist, Jacobus Horsecki de Tiepenec, a man rumored to have healed the emperor with an elixir of life. In return, the emperor rewarded him, and with his new wealth, Tiepenec became a powerful figure in the court. But like everyone else, he couldn't decipher the manuscript. In the 1600s, the book found a new obsessed owner, Georg Bersch, a Prague alchemist who pored over its pages, desperate to understand its secrets. Bersch even sent a sample to Athanasius Kircher, a famous Jesuit scholar who had a reputation for decoding languages. But Kircher, with all his skills and expertise, couldn't make sense of it either. Then, the manuscript vanished for centuries, until it surfaced in the hands of a rare book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich in the early 1900s. Voynich was convinced it was written by Roger Bacon, a medieval scholar and scientist known for his secretive work. Nonetheless, Voynich wasn't alone in his quest to decode it. He hired William Newbold, a cryptographer whose methods were as unusual as the book itself. Newbold tried to break down every detail of the letters, even examining tiny cracks in the ink under a magnifying glass. He believed those cracks held microscopic codes, an invisible message left by Bacon himself. His ideas were groundbreaking and ambitious, but ultimately they fell apart. The cracks turned out to be random, not a secret code, and Newbold's theory faded. But his obsession with the manuscript set a pattern that would be repeated many times. Then there was William Friedman, a cryptologist famous for breaking complex codes during World War II. Friedman spent over 30 years trying to unlock the Voynich manuscript, pouring himself into it with the same intensity he used on top-secret military codes. He even brought a team of experts on board, and together they applied math, language analysis, and code-breaking techniques to study it. But after all that time, Friedman's conclusion was not what anyone expected. He suggested that the book was written in a made-up language, created to look real and meaningful, but without any actual content. And as if to keep the manuscript's secrets alive, Friedman himself encoded his findings in a separate paper, leaving his thoughts on it as much a mystery as the book itself. Fast forward to the present, the Voynich manuscript has become a sensation online. It's the focus of endless debates and discussions among modern codebreakers, amateur historians, and language experts who argue over every strange detail. Some think it's an elaborate hoax, created centuries ago to confuse and amaze. Others are convinced there's a real message hidden in the strange words and images. Advances in technology have allowed researchers to study it in new ways, with multispectral imaging and artificial intelligence detecting repeated patterns within the text. Certain words seem to appear near specific drawings, like plants or zodiac symbols, hinting that there could be a system in place. Yet, despite these findings, the book's meaning remains just out of reach. One of the most recent claims about the Voynich manuscript came from David Cheshire, a University of Bristol researcher who believed he'd finally cracked the code. Cheshire argued that the manuscript was written in Proto-Romance, a lost language that predated today's Romance languages like Spanish and Italian. With his theory, he claimed he could decipher the manuscript's structure within just 2 weeks. According to Cheshire, the text was created as a guide by Dominican nuns for Maria of Castile, Queen of Aragon, written not in official Latin, but in an early, informal language rarely seen in written form. Cheshire highlighted vivid illustrations within the manuscript as evidence for his theory. One page shows 2 women bathing 5 children, each child labeled with a term describing their personality, one noisy, another foolish, another calm. Words like "or la la," which he interpreted to mean on edge or impatient, seem to hint at ties to modern Romance languages. He even suggested that some sketches of volcanic eruptions referenced real rescue missions and newly formed islands. However, the boldness of Cheshire's theory was met with fierce criticism. Experts, including Lisa Fagan Davis from the Medieval Academy of America, openly challenged the validity of his findings, and in 2019, the University of Bristol formally retracted its endorsement of Cheshire's work. Still, his theory revives debates once again. pushing the Voynich manuscript into the spotlight. With theories like Cheshire's coming and going, modern researchers have turned to technology for answers. In 2014, the Beinecke Library partnered with the Lazarus Project to capture multispectral images of the manuscript. This method uses light to reveal faded or hidden details in medieval ink, and it has helped unlock secrets in other ancient texts. By 2024, Lisa Fagan Davis had reviewed these enhanced scans, noting several faint inscriptions she thought might be early decoding attempts. The manuscript's parchment dates back to around 1425, and its illustrations align closely with the art style of that period, which supports its authenticity. One fascinating discovery also emerged from analyzing the manuscript's margins. Using multispectral imaging, researchers spotted 3 columns of writing on the first page, one in Roman letters, another in Voynich symbols, and a final Roman alphabet sequence shifted by 1 letter. This arrangement suggested an attempt to crack the code centuries ago, possibly by a 14th century Italian humanist skilled in Latin and Italian. Despite advances in imaging and linguistic theories, the mystery surrounding the Voynich manuscript remains. With every new discovery, whether it's a fresh theory, an imaging breakthrough, or a historical insight, the manuscript's allure only deepens. So let's dig a bit deeper this time, because some theories offer better explanations for the Voynich mystery. One thing is certain, the manuscript's secrets are well guarded, but over the years, scholars, skeptics, and dreamers alike have crafted theories to explain its purpose. Some see it as a practical guide, and others as something more otherworldly. In 2019, a wave of fresh theories brought new life to the mystery of the Voynich manuscript. Renowned anthropologist Tim King proposed a bold idea. The script could be a lost form of Roman shorthand written in a dialect of Latin. Then there was Cheshire, who I talked about earlier, that suggested that it was a language unique to the manuscript and was actually a blend he dubbed Proto-Romance. But this theory stirred the waters too fiercely, and was under such heavy scholarly criticism that the University of Bristol ultimately retracted his paper. Finally, we have computer scientist Torsten Tim, and he teamed up with colleagues to propose a more skeptical take. What if the manuscript was simply an elaborate medieval hoax, a random jumble of characters meant to deceive? For now, there were no definite answers. However, the Voynich manuscript has a mysterious allure that modern forgery theories make easy to shake off. For starters, its origins date back to between 1404 and 1438. Its pages crafted from no fewer than 14 calfskins, bound together with ink that's undeniably medieval. These details alone dispel any notion that it's a modern fake, steering us back to the theories surrounding what it really is. One of the theories that captivates people is the Romani Syriac script theory. Some scholars suggest that the manuscript could be written in an early form of the Romani language using Syriac script, an ancient alphabet from the Middle East. According to this theory, the Voynich manuscript isn't just a book of obscure symbols and strange drawings. It's a hidden record of Romani herbal medicine and astrology, preserved by a people constantly on the move. Scholars and researchers alike assert that as the Romani migrated westward, they may have adopted the Syriac script because of its visual similarities to the Voynich's mysterious symbols. But where does Italy fit into all of this? Well, the theory suggests that the Romani people might have created the manuscript in Italy along one of their migration routes. In this sense, the manuscript becomes not just a book, but a cultural relic. Perhaps it was crafted to safeguard ancient wisdom as the Romani navigated new lands and endured various challenges on their journey. Similarly, the Voynich manuscript could be the ultimate code, a natural language hidden behind an unknown cipher. Picture a scribe in medieval Italy, hunched over a desk by candlelight, carefully inscribing secret knowledge onto parchment, aware that it could be dangerous in the wrong hands. This scribe, so the theory goes, chose to protect this precious information, maybe rare medicinal formulas, perhaps hidden botanical knowledge, even forbidden lore, by encrypting it in symbols that would transform normal words into a wall of mystery. The Voynichese, as some call it, could actually be a real language, maybe Latin, Italian, or a local dialect, but encoded with a cipher so obscure it's evaded some of the world's best cryptologists. Despite years of efforts, the manuscript resists decryption, and each failed attempt only strengthens the legend, as researchers are left wondering if they're pursuing shadows or they simply haven't found the right key. But there's another theory, one that veers in a completely different direction. The manuscript might not be a code or a language at all, but instead an intricate map of the inner mind of its creator, a mind perhaps shaped by mental illness. To them, Voynich's strange language, bizarre symbols, and anatomical sketches may have been the only way to communicate a world that felt equally bizarre, captured in these symbols and drawings as an artistic outpouring or even as a personal therapy. History shows other examples of such outsider art, where creators isolated by their perceptions draw together the real and imagined into something unique. If the Voynich manuscript is one such piece, then it's less a code to be cracked and more a window into the mind of its creator, or a way to make sense of the world they saw. Every theory we've explored opens a new door into the mystery of the Voynich manuscript, each one daring to explain what others couldn't. But not everyone's buying it. For every bold idea, there's a critic waiting to pull it apart, pointing out the gaps, the stretches, and the leaps of logic. Let's dive into the skeptic side of things, the ones who believe the real mystery might be why we're so eager to explain it at all. At first glance, the Romani Syriac script theory seems rooted in historical connections. This theory suggests that the manuscript could be an early Romani language written in the Syriac script. The timing is almost right. Romani migrations into Europe coincide roughly with the manuscript's estimated origins in the 15th century. But critics quickly raise concerns. Early Romani culture was largely oral, with little evidence of written records, let alone any that used the Syriac alphabet. Scholars of Romani linguistics argue that, at this time, Romani communities passed down stories, histories, and knowledge orally. There simply wasn't a standardized writing system. The theory also leans heavily on perceived similarities between the Voynich glyphs and Syriac characters, which some linguists say isn't enough. The matches are loose and mostly visual, with few actual linguistic patterns or phrases that can be reliably translated. Without more concrete linguistic or historical proof, skeptics dismiss the Romani Syriac script theory as more hopeful speculation than a genuine breakthrough. Then we have one of the oldest explanations. The Voynich manuscript is an elaborate hoax. According to this theory, the manuscript's creator may have intended to deceive or simply mystify, an elaborate game to make people think there was hidden knowledge when, in fact, there was none. In this view, the flowing cryptic text, strange plant drawings, and seemingly organized sections are all part of a grand medieval charade. Supporters of the hoax theory argue that the manuscript's repetitive and structured patterns look like real language, but ultimately don't adhere to any known linguistic rules. While the patterns create an illusion of order, critics say they're empty symbols arranged to mimic real scholarship. The final theory believes the manuscript was a code. But was it really? The language code captivated cryptologists for decades. According to this idea, the Voynich manuscript could contain a real language, but one that's been encrypted with an elaborate code. This would make it a cipher, hiding a coherent, meaningful text. Researchers have used everything from traditional cryptographic techniques to modern artificial intelligence. But so far, no one has cracked the code or translated it into any known language. Medieval ciphers usually include some telltale markers, hints like linguistic patterns or consistent character groupings that serve as clues for decryption. But the Voynich manuscript shows none of these markers, which makes it extraordinarily hard to decode. This lack of decipherable structure has led many to believe the text might use a fictional or invented language, one with just enough organization to look real but actually crafted to evade interpretation. Supporters of this theory believe that if there were a real language beneath the code, it would have been uncovered by now. The manuscript's resistance to all modern decryption techniques has fueled the idea that it's a mystery meant to endure, a puzzle built with the sole purpose of stumping the solver.